This is the 2C Media Network. Boop, 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 boop. This is the LT Media Network. I'm Harry von Stuttgart, and live from the Tom O'Neill Broadcast Studio on the fourth floor of the fantastic Park Forest apartment complex somewhere in the bowels of Jackson, Michigan. The L2C Media Network and Mystifying Creativity Productions presents Steve Sporty Balls. And here's our host, Steve, that's Man Max. Welcome, one and all. And how do you do, ladies and gentlemen, tonight? We did one commentary, but tonight we got to do another commentary. That's right, because something occurred tonight that made me want to just go nuts. And it is the commentary for tonight. It is because of one man who decided to declare for the WNBA draft. And what he has done is the subject of tonight's commentary. All right, Sporty Balls Nation, settle in, grab your snacks, adjust your volume because tonight's commentary isn't about politics, culture wars, or whatever the internet is melting down over. No, kiddies. Tonight we're talking history and why Enes Kanter Freedom's WNBA draft declaration hit me with deja vu so hard I thought I'd slipped into a time warp set for the 70s. Because, folks, I have seen this kind of chaos, this kind of league chaos before. I've seen a league wobble, stumble, and faceplant while insisting everything is fine. Go back, everything is fine. Before the poor guard decides to get run over by a bunch of people waiting for the exit. And the last time we saw this level of instability, it was the ABA, right before it got absorbed by the NBA like a donut at a police convention. And now we are all watching the sequel in living color. Only this time the league isn't called the ABA, it's called the WDBA, the Women's Drama Basketball Association. Yes, legally it's the WNBA, but let's be honest, the drama is scoring more than half the teams this season. The ABA was chaos wrapped in a basketball. The WDBA is chaos wrapped in hashtags and hurting the golden goose that is making the league survive and yet being ignored by that same league. The ABA couldn't decide what it wanted to be, a serious league or a circus act. The WDBA is doing the same thing. One day, it's demanding respect. The next day, pushing storylines and makes fans wonder if they turn into a reality show or a lame version of World Championship Wrestling, or instead of a basketball game. The ABA needed the NBA and its money to survive. The WDBA, it's already living off NBA oxygen, arenas, owners, marketing, subsidies, the new billion-dollar basketball contract, but the new basketball rights deals. Mm-hmm. It's like a teenager insisting they're independent while living in their parents' basement eating their cereal. And then comes the moment of absurdity, the moment every collapsing league has. For the ABA, it was the Spirits of St. Louis deal. For the WDBA, it might be this: A retired NBA center declaring for the WNBA draft and accidentally exposing how flimsy the league's rulebook really is. It's not about Cantor, it's about the fact that one stunt revealed just how vulnerable the league structure truly is. And history tells us that there's only one fix, one path, one way to stop the drama, stabilize the product, and restore credibility. And it's the only path. Merge the WNBA into the NBA, not as a side project, not as a charity case, not as a sister league, but as a fully integrated NBA division with NBA officiating, NBA leadership, NBA scheduling, NBA marketing, NBA rule clarity, and NBA financial structure. The ABA survived because the NBA absorbed it. The WDBA will only survive if the NBA does the same. And now, because if they can't, there won't be a 31st, 32nd, 34th, 35th anniversary to talk about. Because right now, the WDBA, I mean the WNBA, is the ABA. But without the red, white, and blue ball to distract fans from the problems. Instead, it's the jock itch of having balls to do something about it. So the fans and players can get back to, for the players, playing basketball, and the fans back to watch it. Just like it was meant to be played, like pros, and not a circus freak show. Now, let's get to the sports, shall we? Let's tell you who's winning, who's losing, and just who's going along with it. Shall we? We shall. Gotta get the teleprompter warmed up. So here we go. And half of this thing is going to be about the NFL. So here we go. Max Crosby and Kirk Cousins engaged in an altercation during the Las Vegas Raiders training camp practice on Friday. Both players exchanged words before they were ultimately separated. The altercation began when Cousins took exception to Crosby hitting him on the arm twice during the team period. After the second hit, Cousins confronted Crosby, grabbed his jersey. The two players then exchanged words before being separated. Crosby said prior to the training camp that he had been warned by the team's new coaching staff about touching the quarterback during practice. He acknowledged at the time that his aggressiveness once led to his removal from practice during his time at Eastern Michigan. You talk about deja vu. Now, while Crosby's aggressive nature is well documented, Cousins' actions on Friday were an insight to his competitive spirit. It may also serve as a rallying cry. Boy, I do one commentary and my tongue is twisted. For a Raiders offense that was pushed around far too often in 2025. The Crosby-Cousins scuffle was one of two altercations that took place during Friday's practice. And while fighting during practice isn't always a good thing, it might be for a once proud franchise that is looking to turn things around. Hopefully, it might have worked. We already done
We already done the study. Let's keep going.
Okay, let's talk baseball for a while. I have a feeling my commentary is going to be leading with some uh, comments. Please be nice if you're commenting, because the point of the matter is, can't we all just get along? Anyway, to continue this program. Several weeks back, we discussed the state of the American League Cy Young race, and we noted Tariq Skubal, in his return from injury, had an outside chance to win his third award in a row. We also noted the possibility of him being traded to an NL team. Sure enough, he's a Dodger. There'll be a non-Skubal AL Cy Young winner in 26, for the first time since Garrett Cole won the honor in 23. So what does the AL race look like now? It's a two-man race at the top. Dylan Cease of the Blue Jays. Things appear to be trending in his direction now. He leads the AL in both versions of pitcher WAR, is second in ERA by a mere 2%, is sixth in WHIP, and leads in strikeouts at 126 and one-third innings. His workload is neither too low nor high enough to the point that there's concern of being shut down, especially since he's gone up to 189 and one-third innings before. Is playing for a team unlikely to be in contention in September and doesn't have an extensive recent injury history. There's even reason to believe Cease misses 0 turns in the rotation the rest of the way. He's getting stronger too. In his last 6 starts, Cease is 3-1 with a .84 ERA and 56 strikeouts in 43 innings. Now that the voting body correctly doesn't hold, his teammates aren't helping him enough. See Thursday's Jays loss in Wrigley Field as an example. Against starters any longer, the 7-5 record on a bad team isn't prohibitive. In fact, it can help him. The Blue Jays are 13-9 when he starts and 41-54 when he doesn't. The path is clear for a guy who finished 4th in Cy Young voting in 24 and 2nd in 22. How about Cam Schlitter? Well, if voting were held right now, Schlitter might well beat Cease out. That's one reason the odds are so close. In addition to the Yankees tax, we often discuss more people bet on the Yankees, and that skews the odds. Schlitter leads the AL with a 2.26 ERA, is second in WHIP, third in strikeouts, and second in innings pitched. It all adds up to him sitting second behind Cease in both versions of WAR, close enough that he'd have a good chance. I can't help but shake the feeling in my stomach that he's headed for a bit of an IL stint at some point. Between the minors, MLB regular season, and playoffs last season, Schlitter, I want to make sure I say the name right, worked 164 innings last season, and that was a career high by a country mile. He's at 139 and 2/3 innings this season, and the Yankees are surely going to try and plan to have him full go throughout the entire playoffs, which means through Game 7 of the World Series, should it come to that. Carlos Rodon is out on a rehab assignment right now. Once he's ready to return to the rotation, he can join Max Fried, Garrett Cole, Ryan Weathers, and Will Warren in the Yankees rotation. The Yankees will likely be cautious with the 25-year-old Schlitter. And how about Sonny Gray from Boston? 3 decades ago, Gray would have been the front runner. He's 14-2, and his team is absolutely surging right now. The Red Sox are 16-5 when he pitches, so he's obviously had a major impact. He's been great at run prevention. His .278 ERA is 5th in the AL. So why does he rank 12th in Baseball Reference version of WAR and 16th in Fangraphs version F WAR? and B-War for the baseball reference version. Now, it's everything else. He's had good fortune with balls in play, as his 1.15 whip, essentially base runners allowed per inning, is 16th in the AL. He's 32nd in strikeouts. He's 32nd in strikeouts. He does a good job at getting grounders, fourth in the AL in ground ball percentage, but his hard hit rate is only in the 53rd percentile, meaning again he's gotten pretty fortunate with his opponents hitting balls toward his defenders. He's having a great year and has a chance at his first Cy Young. Maybe I'm just being a cynic. I'm just trying to explain why he doesn't have better odds to win here, despite the record and being fifth in ERA. When deciding between strong candidates, we are forced to, come on, just be nitpicky. There's Gavin Williams. He sits 14th in the AL in ERA at 3.56. He's 28th in WHIP, 18th in B-War, 7th in F-War. Why is he this high? Well, for one, he's 11-6 on a team some expect to win the division. But there's also strikeouts and momentum. At 178 punch-outs, he's second only to Cease and is on fire here. His last 5 starts, he's had 55 strikeouts against 3 walks in 32 and 2/3 innings with a 2.48 ERA. How about Rasmussen? He sits fourth in the AL in F-War, 6th in ERA, and leads the league with a spankingly good .93 WHIP. He's 10-5 for a division leader, too. Should be noted here that the odds for Nick Martinez aren't listed. It's a bit odd. He's 11-3 with a 2.65 ERA, a 110 WHIP, and 129 full innings. He threw over 165 innings last season, so it's not like he couldn't top 180 this season. I don't think he's going to win, but he's in the conversation for the top 5. How about long shots? Logan Gilbert, Mariners, Sean Burke, White Sox, Parker Messick, Guardians. You name it, there's your list. Good luck. Okay, let's keep going. More baseball talk, and this one, well, it was kind of figured out. And if you got to go, well, it's good to know you're going somewhere. The Athletics and general manager David Forst have mutually parted ways, the ball club announced on Friday. Now, this comes amid a season that took a disappointing turn in the last 2 months. The A's had higher expectations this season after losing a combined 393 games in the 4 previous years. Some people expected them to contend for a playoff spot, and they started the season by making good on their promise. They were in first place in the AL West for a good portion of April and May and were last right at the Mendoza line at 500 when they were 38-38 after a win on the 19th of June in a thin American League. They were in playoff position at the time. Since then, however, the A's have gone in MLB worst 7-32, which is 7.5 games worse than any other team in baseball. The A's, despite owning the 3rd worst record in baseball, had a quiet trade deadline in what was a seller's market. The A's are currently in a transition period, playing their games in Sacramento after having left Oakland in 2024. They're awaiting relocation to Vegas. Their new ballpark is under construction and is set to open in 2028. They were a playoff team from 2018 to 2020. They then won 86 games in 21 before Force was forced to oversee a teardown of the roster as ownership looked to bottom things out before moving out of Oakland. The 50-year-old Force has spent his entire front office career with the A's. After a brief stint as a minor league player, Force joined the A's as a scout in 2000 at age 24. He became assistant general manager in 2004 and was named general manager in 2015, with Billy Beane being elevated to executive vice president of baseball operations. With Bean moving more towards a hands-off role as senior advisor in November of 2022, Forrest became the top baseball decision maker for the ball club. Now, 5 questions facing the organization as it moves forward, notably for the next A's general manager. 1. Can Nick Kurtz be locked up long term? Kurtz, the fourth overall pick in the 24 draft, has all the makings of a franchise centerpiece slugger. He's on the injured list right now, but is only 23 years old and in 216 MLB career games has hit 275, 389, and 557. He hit 36 homers in 117 games last year and has 21 in 99 games this season. He wouldn't hit free agency until after the 2030 season, but in moving to a new city and looking to build a fan base up, having Kurtz locked up several years past that would be nice. Now, what would the payroll constraints be? That's your second question. The A's have been notoriously frugal going back to before the Moneyball days. No one needs to be reminded how often they've traded star players before those players hit free agency. They've stripped things down to the threads before moving from Oakland. This season, the A's project to have a $96.9 million or $97 million year-end payroll via cuts, which will rank 25th of 30 MLB teams. With new digs in Vegas bringing full crowds every night, and if so, will ownership provide more dollars for hopefully a competitive on-field product? An extra layer here is how the new collective bargaining agreement looks. If there's a salary cap, surely a floor will be set as well. One of the proposals from the MLB owners that they made public so far includes a salary floor of $171.2 million. So the A's would obviously, then be required to ratchet things up significantly. Now, how can the A's recruit pitchers before the Vegas move? Well, that's the next step. If they're looking to add talent, would be via the pitching market and free agency, Gage Jump, a long-term keeper, while prospects like Jamie Arnold and Wei Lin pan out. But the A's don't appear to have many long-term frontline starters in the system now, which means they'd have to add from outside the organization. In attempting to sign pitchers now, it's tough sledding. Sutter Heath Park in Sacramento is a hitter-friendly yard, and Luis Severino has even spoken publicly about how he doesn't like pitching there after signing a new free agent deal. The new boss needs to build a pitching staff to complement the core position players like Kurtz, Tyler Soderstrom, Shea Langeliers, and Brent Rooker, in addition to their prize prospect shortstop Leo DeVries. Will the A's arrive in Vegas as planned? Well, the plan is for the A's to move into their new ballpark in Las Vegas on the former site of the Tropicana Hotel and Casino for the start of the 2028 season. Ever since the franchise announced the move, there have been plenty of reports of delays. There are pictures that can be found of the progress of construction, and it's certainly starting to resemble a real ballpark. The latest report from ESPN in May of this year said the move was on schedule. Now, how can the A's recruit pitchers after the Vegas move? Well, you know plenty about how altitude and hot weather can help make ballparks into launching pads. Coors Field in Denver will remain the highest altitude Major League Baseball MLB ballpark by a significant margin. But the new A's ballpark will comfortably move into second. We know plenty about the heat in Vegas, though this ballpark will be indoors and climate controlled. There's still a distinct possibility the Vegas Stadium will be one of the most hitter-friendly in all of baseball. If that's the case, will the A's still have trouble recruiting pitching and free agency, even with, hopefully, an increased payroll? The Rockies have had trouble for years signing top-shelf pitchers in free agency. We'll just have to wait and see. 19 minutes after the hour, then from a commentary to actually doing a little sportsy sports here. And there's a big problem in the investigation, and we got the story. Here it is. Kawhi Leonard had a hidden multi-million-dollar sponsorship agreement with scoreboard manufacturing giant Daktronics, according to investigative journalist Pablo Torre. He was told by sources that this was another vehicle used by the Los Angeles Clippers to circumvent the NBA salary cap and pay Leonard more than they were legally allowed to under the current collective bargaining agreement. The NBA has been investigating the Clippers, Leonard, and potential salary cap circumvention since last September when Torre originally unearthed a secret endorsement deal that Leonard had with Aspiration, a now defunct sustainability company whose co-founder was recently sentenced to 14 years in prison for defrauding investors. The NBA investigation being conducted by the try that again. The NBA investigation being conducted by the law firm of Wachtell, Lipton, Rosen, and Katz. No, they're not a sister company to Dewey, Cheatham, Howe, and Fleesom. Has dragged on for nearly 11 months and reportedly grew in scope in recent weeks. Torre's latest reporting shows part of the reason why. Quote, this was talked about openly within the organization from people working on the project that Kawhi was a spokesperson for Daktronics, a high-level Clipper source described as a former official told Torre in the podcast episode that was released last night. It was openly joked about within people working on the project that knew about this, as it was 1,000% a way to circumvent the salary cap. Quote, again, people at Daktronics, people within the Clippers organization themselves, had told me about this multi-million-dollar deal with Kawhi and Daktronics. The Clippers source further explained, they're not a company that you would see a celebrity endorser for. It was coming out Daktronics' end. The Clippers were technically kind of funding it. It was funneling money from the Clippers through Daktronics back to Kawhi, end quote. The Raptors agreed to a trade to acquire Leonard from the Clippers earlier this summer, but that trade has been put on hold with the investigation ongoing. The Raptors were informed by the league that they would assume the risk any potential penalties handed to Leonard and pressed pause on the blockbuster deal. Daktronics is a company that built the 38,000 square foot Jumbotron scoreboard, aka the Halo board, and the biggest of its kind inside the Clippers Intuit Dome, which opened in 2024. Now, where does the investigation go from here? ESPN recently reported that this ordeal could end up dragging into 2027 before a resolution is reached. And even from there could still be an arbitration and potential appeals process to play out. From Sam Quinn, quote, if any of the parties involved here dispute their findings, the next step would be arbitration. The arbitrator would be jointly appointed by the NBA and the NBA Players Association and would have the power to compel document production, witness testimony, and order discovery. After that hearing, the arbitrator's ruling could be appealed to a three-person panel jointly appointed by the NBA and the NBPA. That appeal panel would finally have the power to make a binding decision. Now, the exact figures in the reported Daktronics deal are unclear, but Leonard, who signed with the Clippers in 2019 and has inked 2 max contract extensions with the team since, reportedly had a $28 million sponsorship agreement with Aspiration, which received $50 million in funding from Clippers owner Steve Ballmer. Now, the Raptors knew this was being investigated when they traded for Leonard on June 30th. But as the scope of the scandal has expanded, the trade has been put on ice as Toronto, understandably, is concerned about having to assume any punishments that may be handed down Leonard could face a suspension or have his current contract voided, for instance. Last week, Tory released a podcast, Leonard's secret ownership stake in a Rhode Island soccer team, yet another alleged way the Clippers were getting more money to him than they are legally allowed to pay. And now we have this alleged hidden deal with Daktronics, which has deals with other NBA teams. Now, the most famous case of NBA salary cap circumvention came in the late 90s when the Timberwolves were caught using Joe Smith's deal to get around cap restraints. The team was docked 5 first-round picks, though 2 of them were ultimately returned. Smith's contract was voided, the team owner was suspended, and the team was fined $3.5 million. Ballmer, for his part, has denied the team circumvented the salary cap and has maintained that he, like other investors, was duped by Sandberg and Aspiration. The Clippers have yet to comment on the alleged Daktronics deal. Indeed, this story just keeps getting bigger and bigger and muddier and muddier and muddier. And it's unclear who Leonard will be playing for come next season or if he'll be on ice. 10:26 in the a.m. here on the East Coast. Time now for that fun thing we love to do before we do any more news, sports news, and that's give you the scoreboard. And speaking of the WNBA, let's go to the WNBA for scores and maybe a few things more. Salud. Okay, time now to do that score funkadelica that we love to do so well. 3 games, 2 are final, and 1 is about to go to the half, so let's give you the final scores. Washington beat Atlanta 79-74. Connecticut beat Phoenix 75-72. And a minute 50 to the half. Golden State 39, Dallas 32. Fun, funny, fun. And here we go. We go from those scores to Major League Baseball and their scores. Yes, I know there was a football game. We'll get you that story. In fact, why don't we do that now because, well, it was the first preseason game. If we got it. Let's do the scores from last night. Oh, come on. Boobalas of tubulas. Let's get to the Hall of Fame because that is the big one, Tootie. Okay. In the Hall of Fame game last night, it was pretty tight. I will admit it was pretty tight. Carolina beat Arizona 33-30. Now, let's go to the Major League Baseball and get you all the scores from tonight's schedule. And here we go. Games that are still going on right now. Toronto leads Philadelphia in the 6th inning, 3-2. 9th inning, Minnesota over Milwaukee, 8-6. 8th inning, Chicago Cubs over Kansas City, 6-3. Also in the 8th inning, Texas, and this is the bottom of the 8th. Texas leads Baltimore, 2-1. At the end of 7, St. Louis over Colorado, 3-2. In the top of the 6th, Atlanta and the Yankees are still scoreless. Mid-3, Houston up 3-0 to San Diego. 4th inning, Arizona leads Los Angeles Dodgers 1-0. In the 3rd, Tampa Bay over Seattle 2-0. And just getting underway, Detroit leads San Francisco top of the 1st 1-0. Final scores, Mets over Pittsburgh 6-4. Washington over Cincinnati 5-3. Boston took out the Athletics 13-1. The Los Angeles Angels took out Miami 4-3. Cleveland took out the White Sox 8-2. Now that that's been taken care of, let's get you the minor league scoreboard. Not the minor. Yes, let's take you to some minor league baseball scores. And if we can do it very fast, we will have time to do it all. We do it all anyways, don't we? Yes. Yes, we do. Okay, let's get to some minor league. There we go. How you doing? Go Speed Racer, go Speed Racer, go Speed Racer, go. Oops, I think we went a bit too far. Bit too far, boys. Way too far. There we go. Okay, in the International League, we got a double header. Hey, Matt, Ed, and Eddie, how you doing? How you doing, boss? Okay, Omaha and Toledo, and wow, kind of looks like Omaha is about ready to blow up some mud hens. They took care of game one, Omaha over Toledo, 11-2. And right now, it looks like Omaha will be sweeping the double dip between them and the Mud Hens of Toledo. They lead in the top of the seventh by a score of 10-3. Final in 10 innings, Norfolk tied 6, Buffalo Bisons 3. Syracuse Mets beat the Columbus Clippers 6-5. Worcester Red Sox over Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs 5-4. Charlotte Knights, oh, those Charlotte Knights, they beat the Durham Bulls 5-4. Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp and Gwinnett Stripers were postponed. Iowa Cubs 9, Indianapolis Indians 3, Rochester Red Wings 13, Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders 5. Nashville Sounds 5, Memphis 3 in the top of the ninth. And the St. Paul Saints beat the Louisville Bats 4-1. In Pacific Coast League action, no finals, but a lot of games still going on. For example, top of the second, it's scoreless between the Tacoma Rainiers and the Vegas Aviators. Bottom of the third, the Round Rock Express leads Sacramento River Cats 2-0. Top of the third, the Chihuahuas of El Paso lead the Reno Aces 8-2. Oklahoma City Comets in the bottom of the fifth lead the Salt Lake Bees 11-0. And in the bottom of the sixth inning, the Albuquerque Isotopes lead the Sugar Land Space Cowboys 4-3. In the Eastern League, one game still going on. Reading Fighting Phils 6, Richmond Flying Squirrels. Hey, Rocky! 6-4, top of the seventh. Final scores: Akron Rubber Ducks over Somerset Patriots 11-4. Chesapeake Bay Sox over the Harrisburg Senators 5-2. Binghamton Rumble Ponies over the Hartford Yard Goats 1-0. Erie Sea Wolves over the Altoona Curves 10-1. Portland Sea Dogs over the New Hampshire Fisher Cats 7-4. Southern League, top of the ninth inning, Rocket City Trash Pandas about to win over the Birmingham Barons 10-4. Final scores: Columbus Clingstones over the Biloxi Shuckers 4-2. Final in 10 innings, Pensacola Blue Wahoos 13, Montgomery Biscuits 11, and Chattanooga Lookouts over the Knoxville Smokies 13-4. Texas League action: top of the ninth inning, San Antonio Missions over the Springfield Cardinals 6-2. Top of the ninth inning, Tulsa Drillers drilling the Corpus Christi Hooks 3-0. Bottom of the eighth, the Arkansas Travelers over the Amarillo Sod Poodles 4-0. And in the bottom of the ninth, this could be the final score: Frisco Rough Riders 6, Midland Rockhounds 4. And bottom of the eighth, there's a weather delay. Northwest Arkansas Naturals lead the Wichita Wind Surge 6-3. Midwest League, the mighty Midwest League. Let's go to it. Here are the games that are still going on. Great Lakes Loons lead the Dayton Dragons 6-1, top of the eighth, and also in the top of the eighth inning, Peoria Chiefs lead the Quad Cities River Bandits 6-2. Final score, Cedar Rapids Colonels 15, South Bend Cubs 2, Lansing Lugnuts, go nuts, baby! 13, Lake County Captains 2, West Michigan Whitecaps 14, Fort Wayne Tin Caps 4, and Wisconsin Timber Rattlers over the Beloit Sky Carp 11-5. Northwest League, these games are still going on. Top of the second, the Hillsboro Hops lead the Tri-City Dust Devils 1-0. Top of the third, Vancouver Canadians over the Everett Aqua Sox 1-0. And in the top of the fourth, Eugene Emeralds and the Spokane Indians are tied at 1. South Atlantic League, the Asheville Tourist and the Winston-Salem Dash game was suspended due to rotten weather. Brooklyn Cyclones and the Wilmington Blue Rocks game was postponed due to rotten weather. Top of the ninth, Frederick Keys 2, Jersey Shore Blue Claws 0. Final scores, Hub City Spartanburgers 8, Bowling Green Hot Rods 7, Greensboro Grasshoppers 6, and the Rome Emperors 1. Hudson Valley Renegades 9, Greenville Drive 3. And that's it for the South Atlantic League. California League, California, here we not come. Top of the second, Visalia and Fresno. The Visalia Rawhides and the Fresno Grizzlies are scoreless. Top of the second, San Jose Giants have 4. Stockton Ports have nothing. Top of the third, the Ontario Tower Buzzards lead the Lake Elsinore Storm 1-0. And at the top of the fourth, it's scoreless between the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes and the Inland Empire 66ers. Carolina League action, double dip in that league. And in game one, and it looks like right now the Myrtle Beach Pelicans and the Columbia Fireflies will be splitting the double dip. Game one went to the Fireflies 6-5. Game two, the Pelicans lead the Fireflies in the top of the seventh 8-3. Final scores, Hill City Howlers 2, Wilson Warbirds 0. Fredericksburg Nationals over the Delmarva Shorebirds 5-3. Salem Ridge Yaks over Fayetteville Woodpeckers 4-3. Hickory Crawdads over the Augusta Green Jackets 4-3. And Kannapolis Cannonballers took 5 innings, but they got tripped up by the Charleston River Dogs 6-5. Florida State League action. Plenty of doubles. Let's go to them first. Tampa Tarpons, Clearwater Thrashers. Well, unfortunately, the Thrashers thrashed the Tarpons in both, swept the doubleheader. First game, Clearwater beat Tampa 3-2. Second game, Clearwater beat Tampa 4-3. The Dunedin Blue Jays, Lakeland Flying Tigers. First game, the Tigers beat the Blue Jays and ate them up yum in the first game, 11-1. Second game, they split. The pair as the Dunedin Blue Jays defeated the Flying Tigers 6-0. Fort Myers, doggies. Fort Myers Mighty Muscles defeated the Bradenton Marauders in the first game 6-4, and they swept. Well, right now, they're looking like they'll sweep the other half of the double dip. They lead at the top of the third, 2-1. Meanwhile, I think we got the Tampa Tarpons thing, yes. In singlet games, St. Lucie Mets lead the Daytona Tortugas 2-0, and the Jupiter Hammerheads, they won. St. Lucie Mets beat the Daytona Tortugas 2-0. And the Jupiter Hammerheads beat the Palm Beach Cardinals 10-2 in Major League Baseball Draft League action. West Virginia Black Bears and Trenton Thunder were canceled due to rotten weather. Williamsport Crosscutters over the Mahoning Valley Scrappers 10-6. And the Aberdeen Ironbirds over the State College Spikes 17-2. In college wood bat baseball, the Northwoods League, long list, and we got the time. Yes, sir. Top of the eighth inning, St. Cloud Rocks over the Minot, Hot Tot 6-1. Top of the eighth, Fond du Lac Spiders over the Wisconsin Rapids Rafters 6-4. Bottom of the eighth, Bismarck Larks 5, Wilmar Stingers 3. Bottom of the ninth inning, looks like this could be the final score. Minnesota Mud Puppies 8, Wausau Woodchucks 6. Top of the ninth, Rochester Honkers 9, Lacrosse Loggers 9. Also in the top of the ninth, Mankato Moondogs 10, Badlands Big Sticks 3. Also in the top of the ninth, Madison Mallards 10, Green Bay Rockets 6. Final scores, Lakeshore Chinooks 3, Rockford Rivets 2. Eau Claire Express 6, Minot. Where am I here? I got lost. I got lost again. Madison Mallards 10, Green Bay Rockers 6. Lakeshore Chinooks over the Rockford Rivets 3-2. Eau Claire Express over the Waterloo Bucks 6-5. Duluth Huskies over the Thunder Bay Board Cats 10-5. Traverse City Pit Spitters 9. Battle Creek Battlejack 6. Royal Oak Leprechauns 4. Kalamazoo Growlers 3. Richmond Flying Mummies took care of the Kenosha Kingfish by a score of 10-0. And independent minor league baseball, the American Association. All these are not yet final, though one is. So let's get to the ones that are still going on. Top of the seventh, Sioux Falls Canaries over the, take breath, do it again. Top of the seventh, Milwaukee Milkmen 8, Sioux Falls Canaries 4. Top of the eighth inning, it's the Kane County Cougars 4, Gary South Shore Railcats 3. Top of the ninth inning, this will be a final, Sioux City Explorers 11, Chicago Dogs 5. Bottom of the sixth, Winnipeg Golden, I keep saying Golden, it's Winnipeg Gold Ice 5, Lincoln Salt Dogs 4. Bottom of the seventh inning, Fargo Moorhead Red Hawks 16, Kansas City Monarchs 7, and unless the Monarchs make a big comeback, we're calling this a win for the Red Hawks. And finally, the Lake County Dock Hounds over the Claiborne Railroaders 7-2. Atlantic League action, Long Island Ducks at Staten Island Ferry Hawks postponed due to rotten weather. Final scores, Gastonia Ghost Peppers beat the Lexington Legends 8-1. Lancaster Stormers over the High Point Rockers 5-4. Charleston Dirty Birds 4. Southern Maryland Blue Crabs 1. And the Hagerstown Flying Boxcars 7. York Revolution 6. Frontier League action, double dip. New Jersey Jackals lost to the Quebec Les Capitaines 8-4, and the Quebec Les Capitaines lead the New Jersey Jackals in Game 2, 6-2. That could be, in fact, we're going to say, unless the Jackals catch up, that the Quebec Les Capitaines swept the Twin Bill. Windy City Thunderbolts and the Tri-City Valley Cats game postponed due to the rotten weather. So, too, is the Sussex County Miners and the New York Boulders game. But right now, let's sweep it along rapidly. Mississippi Mud Monsters and the Schaumburg Boomers are tied at 6. We go to the bottom of the ninth. That could be a final score. It could wind up to be a tie. Top of the 10th, Joliet Slammers and the Gateway Grizzlies are tied at 2. Final score, Washington Wild Things 7, Evansville Otters 0, Ottawa Titans 10, Trois-Rivières Aggies 2. The Down East Bird Dogs over the Lake Erie Crushers 7-2. Bottom of the 8th, Florence Yalls and the Brockton Rocks are tied at 10. New Jersey Jackals, as we told you, are down 4 by the Quebec Les Capitales 6-2 in Frontier League. Pioneer League, we haven't heard any reports from tonight's team, so why bother? Outdoor football, Canadian Football League action at the half. Saskatchewan leads Ottawa 13-6. Premier Lacrosse League action from Boston. 6:07 left to play in the fourth. It is the Utah Archers 12, Carolina Chaos 10. And final in overtime, Boston Cannons 14, Maryland Whip Snakes 12. In Major League Soccer next pro division, it was the Crown Legacy 2, Inter Miami nothing. In Canadian Premier League action, Vancouver over Forge 1-0. In National Women's Soccer League action, it was Louisville 3, Orlando 1, and New Jersey, New York Gotham 1, San Diego WEVE nothing. And in Northern Super League action, it was Halifax over Montreal 1-0. That is your scoreboard. Now we go to deadline and our final segment to, of course, the beautiful awful announcing. Come on, you. There we go. Now, let's get to this. Okay, apparently we are not going to be able to get you to any Hollywood report through deadline because it won't let us. So for one night, we're not going to have a Hollywood report. So let us do some awful announcing, although I do brilliant. But let's get to it here. Clay Travis isn't watching. Clay Travis isn't wasting any time in his return to sports media. The firebrand Travis rose to prominence blogging about college football, and then by launching Outkick nearly 2 decades ago. He sold Outkick to Fox in 2023, working under the Outkick umbrella at Fox for several years. Well, now according to Front Office Sports, Travis is on the cusp of starting a new company. Per the report, Travis has trademarked the name Sports and State, along with a logo earlier this year. Trademark application describes an internet content brand that will focus on news and commentary in sports and politics. The new outlet, FOS added, is expected to be built around 2 shows at launch. One would be the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show, the widely syndicated news talk radio and digital show that Travis has hosted for 5 years. The other is Hutton and Withrow, with the former co-host of Outkick, Hot Mike. Hiring and sponsorship sales are reportedly underway. The mention of Travis poaching Outkick talent would certainly be an intriguing one after Fox folded Travis's old site as a vertical within Fox News upon his exit. Perhaps the question of how Travis's new outlet would differentiate itself from Outkick is less relevant than which part of Outkick he could take with him. We wish him luck. To continue. Let's see, before we do our rapage duty, let's see here. If we can find something funny and good, we will be happy. We will be understood. Here we go. Here's another one we were going to. By the way, thank you. All these stories can be found on awfulannouncing.com. That's awfulannouncing.com. ESPN College Game Day will be back on our televisions in just a few more weeks. The traveling circus of a pregame show staple of college football Saturdays, taking over a different campus every week to preview the biggest games of the day, has found it's finally got some competition from Fox's Big Ten Saturday with more fun and David Portnoy. As David Cavucci, excuse me, my eye is watering. Gotta get this correct. As David Cavucci noted at Paul Volleyball this week, it takes a lot to host the game day crew, but not every school treats the opportunity the same way. In 2024, Cal football was off to an unexpectedly hot start, scoring an impressive 23-14 win at Auburn in Week 2. Followed by a 31-10 win at home against San Diego State to move to 3-0 on the season. Around this time, the Calgorithm took hold, with Cal fans invoking the power of the woke mob to push them to victory. There was an excitement around Cal football that hadn't been seen in years, and even despite a loss to Florida State in Week 4, the Golden Bears were chosen to host game day for the first time in school history ahead of their matchup against number 8 Miami. Now, according to Cavucci, while most schools allow ESPN to be on campus, shoot on campus for free, the University of California charged the worldwide leader $4,500 for setting up shop with the Golden Bears for a show in 2024. Oh. Now, it was the first time Cal had ever hosted game day, so it's possible they hadn't gotten the memo that schools usually waive the fee, or maybe the payment was a bit of a needle at ESPN for taking so long to finally come out to California to shoot. Or maybe Gavin Newsom just wrote a law saying ESPN had to pay. You know, they do that anyways for anybody, even the mayor of Los Angeles. Game day serves as some of the best advertising imaginable for universities, as the show highlights the joy of the student body. And as the old joke goes, yes, we've seen some of the bodies of the students. I haven't. I remain here. But I don't work for ESPN either. And the big game atmosphere that game day's presence helped set. This publicity is more than enough of a trade-off for most schools to waive whatever fees might normally come with shooting on campus, but Cal is not like most schools. That said, ESPN definitely got its money's worth from that day, with Cal fans showing out in impressive numbers despite the shockingly early start for the show on the West Coast. It was one of the most memorable game day episodes of the year, supposedly. And ESPN would undoubtedly be ready to return to Berkeley if the team caught fire again. Cavucci has great notes on the wild logistics that go into getting the school game day ready, and the whole story is well worth the read. ESPN's earliest arrivals start setting up on Wednesday, leading up to Saturday's show, after which the whole set is packed up and prepared for another trip the following week. Cal's day hosting game day was a success, but their game against Miami that night was too much to handle. The Calgorithm burned bright and burned fast, but at its peak finally did enough to bring ESPN to Berkeley. Congratulations. Just remember, next time, leave your wallets and purses at home. Okay, and folks, guess what? That's it. We've hit the mark. And that is it for us here on a night that commentary. We scored very high level here. Hope you enjoyed it. We try to do something fun with the commentary. Sometimes we do have to make a point with some of them. Hope we did with this one. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Harry, do your stuff. We got about 30 seconds. Okay, Steve. This has been a presentation of Mystifying Creativity Program. We're going to go late. This has been a presentation of Mystifying Creativity Productions in association with the L2C Network. Harry von Stuttgart speaking. See you tomorrow.